I had a really abusive childhood. Food became like the one thing that I could control, that I had control over. I think somewhere along the lines it just got like really quite distorted. In our household as well, all of the treat food, the chocolates, the biscuits and stuff, that was locked away in the cabinet. I always would find a key and I would go and open up the thing and I would just binge eat because I wasn't allowed it. So for the first, because I saw her quite like really regularly, so like for the first week I had to go away and I had to write down all these things that were kind of bubbling up subconsciously that I wasn't even really aware of. But I was so shocked, like it wasn't even like one an hour, it was like 4 negative thoughts an hour. Negative thought thing was massive for me because she sent me away and she said, I want every single time you have a negative thought that bubbles up within you to recognize where it's coming from. Like, is it coming from your head? Is it coming from like your heart? Is it coming from your gut? And what is it? And I want you to start writing these down. I would often say to myself, my body's perfect the way that it is, recognizing like how much I was being really unkind to myself. And that was the shift that I had to go through that actually unlocked having a better relationship with food. You know, I'm healthy. I'm so grateful to have a healthy body that functions really well. You know, gratitude is really important.
Welcome to the Champion Mindset Collective podcast. I'm your host, Anthony Dahya. I'm so grateful that you're here watching or listening to this episode. Would love for you to share this episode with your friends, your family, and your workmates. And don't forget to subscribe or follow. Today's podcast is about a struggle with orthorexia, which is an eating disorder, and how Amanda overcame it with the power of positive thinking. Welcome. Today we're in this powerful and deeply personal conversation with Amanda Law, who is here to share her journey of overcoming orthorexia. It's an eating disorder that often goes unnoticed, but can have a significant impact on mental and physical well-being. Amanda's story is of resilience, self-discovery, and the power of positive mindset. She battled anorexia as a teenager, only to later find herself trapped in orthorexia, a relentless obsession with eating clean and controlling every aspect of her diet. It wasn't until she sought help from a nutritionist that she truly began to heal and reclaim her life. Amanda is here to open up about what it's really like to live with orthorexia. The moment she realized she needed to change her mindset shifts, that ultimately set her free. If you've struggled with food, control, or body image, this conversation's for you. Amanda, welcome to the Champion Mindset Collective podcast.
Thank you. Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yes, so you're welcome. So tell us about orthorexia. I've never heard of it. I've heard of anorexia, but never orthorexia. Yeah. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, so it's really around control. So it's kind of like a severe control around food. And that's really what it is. So for me, it manifested in I had kind of like I've always had an obsession around being thin, you know, from a very young age. Not really sure where it came from, but some people say it kind of stems back to childhood trauma and things like that, like having something that you could control, so that you decide, right, I'm not going to eat, or I'm going to purge all my food, or so yeah, really I had that anorexia when I was younger, which I think we're going to go into in another question. But yeah, the orthorexia for me was really just showed up in my life and being like severe control over what I was eating, with like an obsession to like be losing weight, to be thin, to have like a particular body shape, and that kind of thing. So that's how it showed up for me.
Tell us about your journey with anorexia. You mentioned that you never fully regained a healthy relationship with food.
No.
How did that eventually turn into orthorexia?
Yeah, so I, from a young age, had like anorexia for quite a few years. Like as a teen, I remember kind of being over like my high school years. You know, things like just trying to like make an apple like last the whole day at school and stuff like that. I kept it under wraps. You know, I would eat a little bit of like food at meal times and stuff at home. So it wasn't really widely known in my family that I had it. And it wasn't really until, and I had like severe like body dysmorphia. Like I was tiny. I was only like a size like 8 to 10. But in my mind, I was like huge. And I remember it being kind of at its worst when I was at college, when I used to sort of walk into the college canteen and just in my head, like everyone was looking at me thinking, wow, she's so huge, you know. But when the reality was I was very slim and I was
Mm.
sporty as well. I did lots of sport and things like that. So it wasn't really until I sort of had like my first boyfriend, and he kind of really helped me with that to understand that, like, no, like you look great, like you're attractive, and all that kind of thing. So I kind of got it under control a little bit, but I never really had a healthy relationship with food until I kind of got over the orthorexia. So it really sort of, I guess the orthorexia was with me really post like anorexia, like really up until kind of like around like my late 30s. Um, and I always just had this thing about like, got to lose weight, got to be thin. I got quite big, or well, I mean, I'm probably about size 16 now, but, you know, like I became, got to a size sort of 16 in my 30s. Most women will understand this. It's pretty hard to keep the weight off, you know, but, you know, like, and just a lack of time to exercise and stuff. But like, I'd actually gotten to the point where I was like, right, I'm just going to fully embrace like having more curves, being more womanly. And I started buying dresses because high street dresses that like they're not made for like curvy women. So I started going to like Isla Marie and like City Chic and stuff like that to dress for clothes that were made for curvy women. I started to feel really good in my clothes. And then I thought, right, okay, again, the orthorexia kind of came back, and I was like, right, I'm gonna like control everything that I'm eating. And it got so bad that at a point where I had like a board up in my room that had like a list of rules, and it must have had about 12 different rules of like things I could and couldn't do. And every time I had a treat, so like a sausage roll or like a chocolate bar or something like that, I would write it on my calendar. I would not allow myself to have more than two treat foods a week. I was like obsessively like measuring myself with a tape every week to see, because I stopped weighing myself like about a decade ago because that was just too triggering. But I'd like obsessively measure myself, like where has it come off, like, and it was just a nightmare. It completely controlled me. Like food was no longer a joy. There was no longer any enjoyment from food. It was just military. It was just
Mm.
terrible. And then I got to the point where I actually couldn't lose weight anymore. And what I was doing wasn't working, even though I was exercising heaps and things. And then I went to see somebody recommended, you know, one of those like the universe signposts you somewhere. And I sort of had a conversation with a reflexologist, and she said, like, oh wow, like I just had this amazing situation because she'd lost heaps of weight. And I was like, have you lost all this weight? And she's like, oh, I've been to see Michelle. And so I was like, oh wow, she sounds great. So I went to see, so I booked in with her, actually with a view to like get her to help me lose weight. And then the first session that we had, she said, no, this is not what we're doing. Like, we need to sort your mindset out. And she found out about all these rules, and she actually educated me that I had an eating disorder. And that's where we went from there, basically.
So you had pretty strict rules and you tracked
Yeah.
everything that you were eating, right?
Mhm.
Could you describe to us what your typical day looked like at the time?
Like very sort of strict on like what I would be eating, and it was also like an obsession with it's got to be like really healthy as well. So I was trying to eat kind of like organic, or I might be going through a juicing phase or a fasting phase, depending on kind of like what obsession I had with the food at the time.
Mm.
You know, like one time I sort of just juiced for like 7 days to try and like shrink down. You know, so I'd have like little bursts of doing like little random things to try and lose weight. But a typical day would be like 3 square meals, with like 2 snacks, and then measuring any snacks that I had, like just making a note of them. And the list of rules that I had would be like to drink lots of water. I can't remember them all now. I think I've blocked them all out, but it would be things like yeah, just like all these healthy rules for me to follow. And
Mm,
had I had like a takeaway or something like that, or and all these different things that I'd have to follow. I can't remember them all now. I think I've blocked it all out because it was about.
mm,
I think it was probably when I was at the worst with the list. Um, was probably about 6 years ago now. So I've done a lot of work and I've blocked all of that out really. But like I
mm.
remember having a list of about 12 rules.
Yeah. So when
Mm.
you went to that lady to get help and
Mm.
you asked for to be able to lose weight, and
Yeah.
she said, "No, we're not doing this."
No.
What was the initial response?
I was
And
really
uh,
irritated. I was like, no, I'm coming to you to like, you're gonna help me lose weight. And she's like, look, we you will find your natural weight at the end of this, but we've got a lot of work to go through before you go there. And you need to accept yourself and love yourself the way that you are without this obsession on food. And we actually need to fix your relationship with food so that that becomes healthy. And then as a result of that, you will find your natural weight because you will no longer be using food. And I really liked how she used to say that. She used to say, like, how are you using food? Like, what are you using it for? So, if you're thinking, because I will often, and I still have to have control over this now, like go to food for everything. So if I'm down, I want to eat something nice. Like the only time, and the adverse thing happens, like if I go through a big period of stress, like I can't eat. I think that's quite common for everyone. But like food is like my comfort space. If I've had a bad day or like if I'm bored or whatever, it's like it's always food. So like Michelle taught me to um understand what was I using it for, what was I looking to get out of the food, and then try and find healthier ways to get that. So replacing that reaching out for food for something more healthy, like going for a walk or having a cup of tea or having a bath. Or so we went through lots of exercises to find out what brings me joy, what fills my cup, and do more of that, and so that I'm not going to food because it's like Michelle says, if you want a sausage roll, have a sausage roll. But if you have a sausage roll every day, you're going to be putting weight on. So she just really helped me look at food in different ways, so that I had became a healthy relationship with food, but also the big thing that we had to sort was me loving my body, and that was really where the positive energy had to go because that was really hard. That was the worst thing
mm,
about it all, really.
mm,
Actually
yeah.
recognizing like how much I was hating on my body, how much I was being really unkind to myself. And that was the shift that I had to go through that actually unlocked having a better relationship with food. And ironically, like well, not ironically, she was right. Like at the end of our journey together, um, I did find my natural weight, which is kind of like 14 to 16. Um, I just think my body's just such a miracle now for everything that it can do.
Mm,
I'm so grateful for it. And I can genuinely say, like, I don't hate my body. I do still always have to be really careful because, like, if I'm going through like things in my life, like sometimes I do go through periods where like I want to eat too much, that's like unhealthy. But I just have to try and keep that under control because I'm a classic, like you are what you eat. Like if I'm eating those cakes, then I'm huge, I just can't do it.
yeah. So through that process of working with that lady,
Mhm.
sorry, I forgot her name. What was her
Her
name?
name's Michelle.
Michelle. Um,
Mhm.
and so working with Michelle, did did you discover at what point in time in your life did you, kind of like not love yourself as much or stop loving yourself?
Oh, I think it was always just there. Like I think if anyone watched the podcast before, I think I touched on it, but I can't remember. I'm happy to kind of touch on it now. But I had a really abusive childhood.
Mm,
I think it came from that. I think it really is like it's like the way that Michelle explained it to me was that food became like the one thing that I could control, that I had control over.
mm,
So I think somewhere along the lines, it just got like really quite distorted.
mm,
Yeah.
mm.
Yeah, it's the one thing I could take ownership of that, which is kind of a strange thing, but I think she's right. I think that was because I like when I look back, I really think right down to my youngest age, I had issues with food because in our household as well, all of the treat food, the chocolates, the biscuits and stuff, that was locked away in a cabinet in our house growing up. And I was only like had to go, and I can remember being really young and like going and finding the key. I always would find the key, and I would go and open up the thing, and I would just binge eat because I wasn't allowed it, you know.
Mm,
So I think treat food became kind of almost like a naughty, guilty pleasure or something as well. So I think like I can remember really back to a young age, like always having like issues with food.
mm, mm,
Yeah, but it only
mm,
became apparent when like I really hit my 20s and like your hormones change and I started to like put on weight. 'Cause up until then I was like super skinny, even though I thought that I was huge, but then I did actually start to put on weight in my 20s. And that was when it all kind of fell apart then because it was like became this control thing of like, unrealistically not wanting to have any fat on you, which is just ludicrous because we need fat,
mm,
you know?
mm, mm. And at what point did you sort of were the warning signs and that you recognized that something wasn't right?
Good question. I think when I got into a relationship with my first love type thing, when I was younger, that was about 17 then. Then I realized that I had a strange like view of my body and relationship with food. So probably around 17 I realized that.
Mm, mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and reaching out for help is so often reaching out for help is quite daunting and it's hard, right?
Yeah.
Did you feel some resistance in changing your habits?
Well, yeah, I mean, I didn't actually reach out for help at all, did I? I mean, like, I didn't even really recognize that I had a problem until someone
Mm,
pointed it out to me,
mm,
um, in my late 30s. So, yeah, reaching out for help is difficult because you're kind of like stuck in your own head over it. You
mm,
just have this relationship with yourself where you're talking to yourself about it, and it's all really negative and you don't share it with other people, and
mm,
you're just
mm.
comparing yourself to other people all the time. And you're in this like constant like battle with like negativity within yourself about it. And it's not really something that you would probably share with people.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
certainly didn't.
yeah. And there would have for you there would have been a time where you came to the realization that hey, you're in this negative loop, right?
Yeah.
and and you wanted to, and then you came to that realization that it's time to change your thoughts
Mm, yeah.
from the
Yeah.
negative to positive thoughts, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was a biggie, and that was like one of the homework that like Michelle set me. So Michelle sort of sent me away with a load of actions to do. So like be more mindful when you're eating was one of them. So like slow down, like don't eat in front of the telly, enjoy your food, think about it nourishing you, think about the choices that you make with the food. Like, is this nourishing me? Like, why do I want this? Why am I eating this? She also brought in a load of things around like your younger self as well. Like, so your younger rebellious self and things like that was an interesting, like who's showing up to the dinner table basically. Is it your very young self that's been abused? Is it your teenage self that's rebellious, or is it the adult self? And bring the adult self to the table. She also helped me to do lots of things like don't eat when you're upset, don't eat when you're stressed. Because like, and she helped me to do lots of things around improving my metabolism, which is has been a game changer really in terms of like movement and stuff like that. But the negative thought thing was massive for me because she sent me away and she said, I want every single time you have a negative thought that bubbles up within you, to recognize where it's coming from. Like, is it coming from your head? Is it coming from like your heart? Is it coming from your gut? And what is it? And I want you to start writing these down. So for the first, because I saw her quite like really regularly. So like for the first week, I had to go away and I had to write down all these things that were kind of bubbling up subconsciously that I wasn't even really aware of. But I was so shocked. Like it wasn't even like one an hour. It was like like 4 negative thoughts an hour. Like, I hate my body.
Mm,
Like, I feel so fat. Like, oh, that fat roll's
mm,
disgusting. Like, I don't look
mm,
nice in this dress. Like, how am I going to like cover up my tummy? You know, like all of these like negative thoughts. I had to write them all down. And I remember just being in tears in that first week, just like, wow, like this is so cruel. Like, I'm being so unkind to myself. And that was like the realization. So I wrote them all down. And then the next session I went back and I shared them all with Michelle and we worked through them all, like where they were coming from and stuff. And then each time something would bubble up within me, what I would do was, it sounds a bit strange, but I would think about transferring that energy into something positive. So say like something would bubble up within me. So like, I hate my body, I look gross, something like that. I would say, I would use that energy and almost pull it out of myself, like put it over there and be like, and replace it with like a positive thought, like, no, I look great. No, I'm a beautiful, curvy woman. I have a great, healthy body. My body's miraculous in what it does. And I would usually, and at first it was really unnatural, you know, and I had to force myself and I would say it out loud. And Michelle also did a lot of work with me about standing in front of the mirror, like also undressed and dressed, and really accepting how I was. And instead of looking for the problem areas, which we all do as women, we don't like to look at our problem areas, actually look at it and be like, no, this is natural. This is completely normal. And everyone has different shapes. So in those earlier times, there was a lot of that. There was a lot of retraining my relationship that I had with myself and
mm,
my body.
mm,
And it did take quite a while, but eventually, you know, the negative thoughts start to slow down and you become really mindful of them and you start to replace them with like positive affirmations about yourself. And I'd highly recommend that to anyone going through any problems with body dysmorphia or any eating disorders or anyone that just doesn't like their body, you know. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, the power of reframing a thought
Mm,
is huge. You know, in the cognitive behavior therapy, they use the 3C method, which is catch your thought, check your thought, change your thought. And, you
mm,
know, also, if you listen to people like Dr. Joe Dispenza, he often talks about how our thoughts, our emotions, and our actions create our current reality.
mhm,
And so if we're always thinking that this is who we are,
mm,
then that's who then we're going to feel that emotion,
mm,
and that's the reality we're going to create, because the
mm.
action we're going to take is going to be coming from a negative place rather than a positive place.
Yeah.
And as you mentioned before, our bodies are amazing, like what
Yeah.
our bodies actually do, right?
Yeah.
and and really, when we think about it, we abuse our bodies so much, you know.
Mm. Yeah, we do.
And you know, if we actually, as the saying is, our body is a temple, if we actually treated our body as a temple, like if
Mm.
we were walking into the house of God or a temple or something like that,
Mm.
we would be respectful.
Mm.
But often with our bodies we're not.
Mm.
And it's amazing how, like, the way we treat ourselves as to how we treat other things or people. And
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
and it comes down to taking responsibility, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
and respect and
mm,
kindness for your body as well. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Were there any aha moments for you during that journey?
Oh, lots. There were lots. I think that was a big aha moment, was just becoming aware of the negative thoughts and
Mm,
how like that's actually being unkind. And I think like Michelle used to say, you know, if you had a child, would you speak to your child like that? Would you say all
mm,
those sorts of things? And that really helped me to sort of think that, like, about how I spoke to myself. That was probably the
mm,
biggest aha moment for me. And then
mm,
as I kind of went through the journey, it was really interesting how sort of detaching myself from the negative habits that I'd had. And it just really freed me up to enjoy food. And I think like
mm,
that was the best moment of all of them. It was like, it's kind of like when you give up smoking and it doesn't have a control over you anymore. You're free of it, you know, or when you give up something negative in your life, like I just felt free all of a sudden and like, nothing had a hold on me and I just felt like invincible because I think it had almost become like a propensity for me. Like food had
Mm,
become a propensity, and propensities are heavy and they stand between you and the light. And I didn't want that. And when I became aware that I had this thing that was like standing between me and the light, I thought, this is ridiculous. Like I'm here in this earthly body. My earthly body is incredibly important to be healthy because it's going to take me through this spiritual journey, and I need to look after it, respect it, take care of it. But I don't need to obsess about it. This is just an earthly shell. And if somebody's going to love me, in the future, or like if I'm going to have a partner in the future, they're going to love me for the person that I am now and how I look. They're not going to be, you know, with me because I've got like a size 8 body, and I won't have like, I'll have like the salad dressing on the side, please, like,
mm,
that's not me. So
mm,
just embrace who I am. And I think that was the biggest moment for me. Is it's like, yeah, I'm not like a skinny woman like that. So what? There's loads of women out
mm,
there, all different shapes and sizes, all beautiful.
mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So, like your mindset would have been impacted like growing up. And
Yeah.
at what point in your life did you really start having a more of a healthy mindset that supported
About
yourself?
38.
About 38, yeah. Okay. And
Yeah, late.
yeah. And what are some of the
I'd always
most
feel guilty. Like I always felt guilty if I would like have a takeaway. I would like enjoy it in the moment. I always felt guilty. Like
guilty? Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
And guilt is a low vibration, right?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
terrible. Yeah,
yeah. So loving yourself and saying, "Hey, I'm just I'm great the way I am,
yeah,
and it's okay to have a snack, but just don't
yeah,
overdo it, right?" Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
and yeah,
Or like enjoy a takeout on a Friday night. Just make sure you go for a walk on the weekend and you're active over the
yeah,
weekend and you don't do it like every night of the week. Once a week is
yeah,
fine. Yeah.
yeah. Did you like with that mindset? Did you change your diet or the food that you were eating? Did you sort of start loving different food? And like
Yeah. Like or
what did you do?
once I was over it. Yeah.
Mm,
Yeah, I have a much different relationship with food now, like just a really healthy one. I think about why I want something, like if I'm craving cake or something really bad, I think, you know, what's going on. So I like check in with my thoughts because it's kind of like when I start like wanting something like really like yummy, it's normally because there's something a little bit amiss within me. So
mm,
like, but then if I still want cake after like 4 days, like I have some cake, right? Like I'm like, okay, this is just about the cake. Like, this is fine. Like I'll have like a piece of cake. And then but I have a much more balanced um
yeah. I
like
mean, if you're having cake every day, then that's going to be a pattern that you're going to
yeah,
start to go, well, what's going on here, right?
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
but if you're having cake once in a while, that's
yeah,
okay.
yeah, it's fine.
Yeah,
Yeah, but I have
yeah,
like a really like healthy relationship with food now. I have like 3 square meals a day. I have healthy snacks, and I don't feel guilty about food. I just make sure that I don't eat like loads of bakery goods too much. And, like I'll have a takeout once every couple of weeks or something like I love fish and chips. So, I have that. And I just, I think I just eat more healthy now, but I'm not
mm,
I'm making more conscious decisions. Like it's not
mm,
subconscious eating. I'm not like grabbing food to like comfort eat anymore. And if I find myself going into that, like wanting to comfort eat, I just check myself and I say, okay, right, what's going on? And there's normally something going on in my life that I'm a bit stressed out about. So it's like, okay, let's fix that stress. And then,
mm.
you know, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And so people who are listening to this, so they might be going, well, how do I even start with affirmations, and how do I
Mm,
create affirmations to support me? Um, what are some of your most powerful affirmations
mm.
or mindset shifts that have helped you transform your relationship with food?
I love my body. My body is an amazing, like what was it like? What I can't think what our bodies are really, but they do so much automatic stuff. Like they're so intelligent, they know exactly what they're doing. So my body's like wonderful. It's amazing. Um, Especially I think like women that have had a child. Like you've grown a human. It's just like wow. And you have so much respect for your body. So just those sorts of things, just all around love and around sort of like, I'm a beautiful curvy woman. I'm completely natural the way that I am. Like everybody's different. Those are some of the positive affirmations that I really like used regularly. I would often say to myself, my body's perfect the way that it is. Um, I'm healthy. I'm so grateful to have a healthy body that functions really well. Gratitude, like gratitude is really important. Um, those are really the positive affirmations. And then it's just like really grabbing those negative thoughts and being like, no, that's not true,
Mm,
and
mm,
then saying something more positive, you know.
yeah.
Yeah.
And when you have those negative thoughts come up, like, have they been generally something or specifically something that's gone back to your childhood, or, you know, has it been something that's been coming up more like regularly?
Well, I luckily don't have the negative thoughts anymore. Since I went through the exercise of retraining myself, they
Mm,
just don't bubble up. They're just not there anymore. I just killed them off.
mm, mm.
Um, yes, I would probably like to be slimmer than I am, but it doesn't dominate me or control me anymore, and I don't obsess over it. Like what I do is I just do what I can that's in my remit of control. So I try to exercise, try to walk, try to make positive choices. Um, I just try and keep that and be mindful around like eating, like Michelle said, like don't eat when you're stressed, don't eat when you're upset, things like that. Like calm down because we need oxygen to digest our food. So
Mm.
taking a breath between each mouthful helps the metabolism while you're eating, slowing down, chewing really well. That all helps the brain to understand like we're eating, like so it's just like slowing everything down. I think I was always in a rush before. Rush, and so just slowing my life down has really helped, I think.
Yeah, I was reading the Power of Now, and there, Eckhart Tolle talks about how being present with even when you're eating, and tasting every
Yeah,
bite, and feeling the sensation in your mouth,
yeah,
and and that's where you become present, and
yeah.
it's that stops you from going into the future fear, which is anxiety, and and so one of the
It's like
things
the
for me.
French, like yeah, the French they don't eat on the go. They think we're really weird that we like walk around eating because they sit down and eat and savor their food. So that's what we should do.
Yeah, I think we just get so busy and for the sake of getting busy, and we don't really spend quality time in the present and being present with
Mhm,
our food or people, um,
mhm.
because we're just on the go, go, go.
Yeah,
And sometimes I feel like what we really what would benefit us is to slow down and just go with the go live with flow in our lives, right? And rather than
absolutely. Yeah,
going against it. So we're constantly trying to, you know, go, do things and force things when we can just let it
mm,
flow and
yeah,
just be, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So if someone is listening to this episode right now, and they realize that they may be struggling with orthorexia, what would you say to them?
Go and get help. Find. I mean, like the lady that I used was absolutely amazing. Her name's Michelle Sage. She's based on the shore, so I'd highly recommend her. Um, yeah, go and speak to somebody that understands healthy relationships with food. Make a choice that you don't want to be controlled by food anymore, or you don't want
Mm,
your behavior with food to control you. And yeah, I think recognition is the key. So admitting like, yeah, I don't have a good relationship with food and I want to have a better relationship with food, start there and get some help, because you can't really do it on your own. You do need to have an expert holding your hand through it and taking you through the process. It's kind of like with healing. When I'm working on someone's body, like I am working on their body, like we're kind of like a circuit, and then I step away and that energy is released through me. It's sort of like you need that other person to help you break your cycles.
Mm,
So and they will give you a fresh pair of eyes, and just go easy on yourself as well. Like I think like again, it's about like self-love, it's about looking after yourself and doing the right thing for you. So don't beat yourself up about it, don't have any judgment on yourself, just go into it with a view that like I want to have a healthy relationship with food and I want to be free of control. Like, and I think that's the same for like kind of like anorexia, bulimia, all of the other eating disorders. I've met a lot of people with those disorders as well. I think a lot of it is control, it is mindset, it is potentially childhood trauma, So I think
mm,
everything needs to be looked at holistically.
mm,
And it is a journey, I luckily haven't fallen back into old habits, but I guess if you do, like, don't worry about yourself. Just have your coping mechanisms that you go to, like your affirmations, or recognize your triggers, and and stop yourself before you go down that rabbit hole, and abuse
mm,
yourself with food. Because essentially what it is an eating disorder is you're abusing your body with food, basically.
mm, mm. Are there any small steps or mindset shifts that people can start with to regain their control over their health in a positive way?
Mindset shift. Okay, what are you using food for? Are you using food rather than eating food? Like, food should
Mm,
just nourish you. Like, what is food to you? That's a good question to ask yourself. Like,
mm,
what does food give me? Because the only answer to that should be yes, enjoyment, because we can all sit down and enjoy a lovely meal, especially a lovely healthy meal. But food should be like nourishment, you know. It should be like a joyous thing to do. It shouldn't be like punishment. It shouldn't be guilt. It shouldn't be you know trying to give you an emotional boost. Food for me now is nourishment, and enjoyment with friends and family. I think that's a
yeah.
good question to sit down and ask yourself, like, what am I getting
Mm,
out of food, and is there any of
mm,
those things I'm not good?
yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And for those who have loved, uh, so those who have a loved one who's going through this,
Mm.
um, what's the best way to support that person, and without making them feel judged or pressured?
Yeah, it's really difficult with anorexia and all the different, and orthorexia, because it's so personal. And I think in the loved ones and the whānau of people that are experiencing this, um, you've got to understand that that person is in their own head about it. So I really honestly think that you have to have like specialist help with it, because I think the recognition needs to come from them. If you sort of say to someone, oh, you're not looking great, or I've noticed this, it probably could potentially make it worse. So
Mm,
I think those kind of like interventions and things like can make it worse. But I think it's tread carefully with it. But definitely say, hey, I've noticed that, you know, like maybe your relationship with food is it's a real tricky one, but like somehow get them to maybe open up and talk about it. Like, hey, why do you do that? Like, or why did you say that? And I guess if you catch them saying something negative, that's probably the best thing to do. Is like if you catch them saying like something negative about themselves, then you can say, no, not at all. Like, why'd you say that? And get maybe them to open up. Or why do you think that? get them to admit to you that they're having like negative thoughts, they've got a negative relationship with food, and then you can suggest, I think you should get some help. Like, have you thought about, seeing somebody about your relationship with food? That's probably the best way to go around it. Because I think if you say like, hey, like you're looking really thin, or you're not looking well, or I've noticed that you're binge eating, or I've noticed that, like that probably adds to the problem. Mm.
mm, mm, mm. Mm. And are you currently like helping people or supporting people in this area or guiding
No,
people?
not really. I saw a few people in my. This is actually the only time I've ever talked about it with you out in the public domain. Like
Wow.
yeah, it's not something that I share on the regular at all. It's very personal to me, and I did see a couple of people with eating disorders when I was working in my clinic, but it was too triggering for me.
Mm, mm.
It's not something I feel like equipped to deal with it. I really honestly think it has to be like someone that is a professional, that is trained in this, that can cope with the emotions of it, because like I found it difficult, because a lot of, I found it very sad dealing with those people, and like looking back on that time, I'm so pleased that I'm free of it, and it's not part of my life anymore. So
Mm.
no, it's not something that
Yeah,
I
yeah,
feel equipped to deal with. I'm happy to
yeah,
share my story, but yeah, like I said,
yeah,
it's the only time I talked about it in the public.
yeah. Thank you for sharing your story because this will help people and
Mm,
for them to know that they're not alone and
yeah,
that other people have gone through this and they can also take the right steps by connecting with the professional
yeah,
and help themselves, right?
yeah. And I
And I
think
can't,
and they're really not alone. I mean, lots of women struggle with this. I mean, I don't know like many women. I don't sort of talk openly about it, but I don't know many women that be like, yeah, my body's absolutely perfect, like, and I love it. Like there's always some problem areas that we have, but I think it's about accepting that we're perfect the way that we are. Yes, there may be like healthy tweaks that we
mm,
need to make. Exercise and healthy eating is always a good thing for like our bodies. But yeah, I think it's really important that to realize that, you know, you're not alone. Like there's lots of women that are going through varying stages of this. Like even women that don't, and men, I guess, like that don't have eating disorders, like probably a lot of people struggle with food in some ways.
mm, mm, yeah. And in this particular area, has there been anyone that's inspired you in the whole um, anorexia, um,
Mm.
orthorexia, and these sort of disorders? Is there anyone that you've looked up to, that or any books that you've read that you could recommend?
I think it really is just Michelle, to be honest, because Michelle went
Sure.
through her own journey with this as well. And
Mm,
Michelle shared, I don't think she particularly had orthorexia, but she went through her own journey that she shared with me. I think her journey's even on her website. It was her, like she inspired me, because I looked at a woman who, okay, well, she's come through at the other end, and she is great now. She's doing amazing. So she was my
mm,
biggest inspiration in all of this. Yeah.
mm, mm. And if you could go back to your younger self right now, what would you have said to your younger self?
Like, yeah, you're perfect the way that you are. You're beautiful the way that you are, and beauty is a holistic thing. It's about the person that you are, the spiritual being that you are.
Mm,
You're going to go through your life, and you're going to like go up and down, and you might be skinny and really fit for a phase, and then you might put on a little bit of weight, and like that's normal, and that's okay. Just be healthy, focus on health as well. That's probably what I'd
mm,
say to my younger self. Mm.
yeah. And what is one last message that you'd like to share with the world?
Don't compare yourself with others. Like that lady that you see jogging down the road, like looks amazing and doesn't have any cellulite and whatever. Like that's her journey. You are you, and you're perfect the way that you are. And it's more, what's more important is to look after your body, being that it is a really precious instrument to take you through the spiritual journey that you're having. And yeah, that's probably what I would share.
Mm, mm. Awesome. Thank you so much, Amanda, for sharing
You're welcome.
your story and your journey with us. It's been really amazing. It's incredibly inspiring, and I know that it's going to resonate with many of the people who are going to listen or watch this episode, and the people that are struggling with their relationship with food. So thank you so much, and honestly, for your honesty and sharing what
Mm.
you the difficult journey that you've been through, and you've got
Yeah.
the strength through that journey, right?
Yeah. And
When we
freedom.
go freedom,
Yeah.
when we go through these things, we build the strength and we build the freedom. So for those who are listening, if Amanda's story has resonated with you, please know that you're not alone, and there is support out there, and healing is possible. So reach out to Michelle Sage, and
Yeah. Yeah.
I will find her details and add that
Yeah. We'll show
uh,
them.
to the show notes as well. So, and if someone really wanted to just come and have a chat with you, is that okay?
Yeah. 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 You can just
Yeah,
find me on LinkedIn.
on
Yeah.
LinkedIn.
Yeah. Just send
Yeah,
me a message.
cool. So thank you so much for your time, and I really appreciate it. And what you've shared is amazing. And thank you all for listening to this episode. And please remember to share this episode with someone who may benefit from what Amanda has shared. And please subscribe and follow this podcast so that you don't miss future episodes and we can get it out to the wider world. Your support and subscribing and following helps us grow this podcast and to be able to bring more episodes that are going to help you on your journey. So until next time, just know that you are loved, know that you are worthy, champion your life, champion your greatness, and stay strong, stay mindful. Remember that your mindset is the greatest tool for change. Have an amazing day.